It's an increasingly fragmented world, as we saw at the recent G20 summit. It's not just about US-China tensions, it's also China-India, India-Canada. How are you assessing the geopolitical risks and what it means for the world?
Is this something new? Not necessarily. It was worse in the past, in the Cold War. We somehow or other managed to circumvent that. Now it's simmering tensions, but I don't believe it's something that should be too worrisome, because when it comes to bilateral, multilateral arrangements, I think the economic fundamentals take the core in terms of decision.
We heard from President Biden about how the US is regaining its leadership in the world. Is it?
Well, as far as we are concerned, it does not matter. To me, it's quite irrelevant. The issue is to engage, to ensure that the policies, either by the United States or China or India, will benefit other countries. It's not regaining, it doesn't. These are, I believe, the rhetorics of the past.
What role would you like the US to play in issues like the South China Sea? And what role would you like the UN to play in the South China Sea?
You see, the US has been a traditional ally of ours. It promotes democracy, it means it's quite akin to what we believe in. But I think our position in the region is to ensure that we have excellent terms with our neighbors, particularly on pragmatic considerations that China is an important trading partner and largest investor in Malaysia. Now, as far as South China Sea is concerned, our position is, and the centrality of ASEAN is that it should be resolved within ASEAN and within the region. You know, in Jakarta, I made reference to the issue of the map, but the response by Li Qiang, Premier Li Qiang, is quite reassuring, saying that yes, we state our claims and may contradict with ours, with other countries, but will not be aggressive. Will continue to negotiate and seek an amicable resolution to this problem.
But there are concerns that there could be clashes in the South China Sea. Should that happen, can countries within the ASEAN region, can a country like Malaysia remain neutral when it is happening in its own backyard?
There have been posturing about possibilities of a clash for decades now. It has not happened, and I take a more optimistic view of the future. We have to advise parties not to unnecessarily provoke, but we have to be, of course, mindful, and ASEAN have taken that strong position continuously to encourage dialogue and not to, unnecessarily provoke. This is similarly our position vis-à-vis the United States.
Are you boosting your defenses in any way in anticipation of what might happen?
We take a position that our defense capabilities at reasonable state. We are probably right now in terms of defense capabilities a bit weak in the region, and I see. Of course, I think there is a need to strengthen, but not go beyond that, because our relations with our neighbors have been excellent. There's no reason to be unduly concerned about the possibility of tensions.
Prime Minister, we know that the Philippines, for instance, is gravitating towards the US strategically. Some are suggesting that such a relationship would allow for greater access to military sites, for instance. Might there raise the possibility of clashes in areas like the South China Sea or Taiwan, for that matter?
Haslinda, I know Bombong well. I mean, of course, he is, and rightfully so, concerned with some of the development in the South China Sea, and they have been traditionally a close ally of the United States. I don't think one should be overly concerned about tilting, because finally they believe in the centrality of ASEAN. He still continue to have reasonably good relations with China, and I don't foresee any possibility of a clash.
Very confident, Prime Minister, that it's going to be all okay.
No, but I say this because we continue to engage with the United States. Kamala Harris was there in Jakarta, and I was again there in Nanning, the third meeting with Premier Li Qiang in a matter of a month. And I don't see any real threat or tension that is being displayed outside, excepting for expressing concerns. And of course protecting their turf, which is to me understandable, but not too worrying.
Let's talk about your trip here to the US. You've been in conversations with businesses trying to get investments into Malaysia. What's been the response? How optimistic are you? Where are you with possible deals and investments?
Well, we have been relatively quite successful in the last few months with Amazon Web Service, with Infineon, of course Infineon German, and now with ConocoPhillips, with Philip Morris, with, I mean, quite a number of these huge companies with huge investments have come in, some discussing the possibility of expanding these. And I am actually extremely satisfied with the level of response. What they want to know is, number one, whether it's stable, we're relatively more stable than most other countries, whether there's clarity in policies in the first time in Malaysia, although I think, to be fair, things have happened in the past, but it's for the first time we have clarity in energy transition, in industrial master plan, in the review of our economic policies, and the concern about ease of doing business. We are doing whatever is necessary to make sure that it is done, and that is all that the investors want to know.
Of course, you are looking at companies like Tesla, Microsoft, Alphabet. Are you leaning more towards the US because of the slowdown in China?
Well, yes and no, because yes, because the opportunities are there in the States and in Europe, we should proceed. But no, it's not the expense of China, because notwithstanding what's being said about China, they are moving very aggressively in terms of the investments into Malaysia. Huge. Yeah. And I think it is important for Malaysia then to welcome the Chinese, at the same time the potential investments from overseas. I mean, America used to be a traditional ally, a largest investment in this country. Overall, it's still the largest, but in the last many years, China has surpassed that, which is to the benefit of Malaysia.
The thing is not only Malaysia that's targeting these companies. We have the likes of Indonesia, Thailand, looking at collaboration investments from the likes of Tesla. Should there be a more coordinated approach within countries in the region so that they do not cannibalize each other, rather maybe build an ecosystem within the region?
That was my response when Elon Musk made the decision to have their operations in Cyberjaya, which should complement each other. And, understanding what's been said, look, this has been happening for the last many decades. We have the Microsoft and Intel operating in Malaysia and the neighboring countries. In some areas, they operate bigger in Thailand and a smaller facility in Malaysia. In many other areas, we have a larger facility in Malaysia. I think we should take a more objective view and a positive stance at that. And I agree with your suggestion that in our deliberations with these countries, other than talking about general policy guidelines and framework, we should also talk about the possibility of having specific companies and what is the niche or age in each country that we can focus and complement each other.
Might Malaysia, might Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim play a more leadership role within the ASEAN region?
Well, I've just assumed premiership, and my task is, of course, to consolidate work in Malaysia, focus on the economy. But I am engaging extremely well with my colleagues in ASEAN and in the region. So I think we'll have to work as a team together. But I don't think the question is quite relevant because there are certain priorities. For now, I have to consolidate and bring back Malaysia into a more formidable economic force.
Prime Minister, just one follow-up question before you go, and it's to do with domestic affairs. Of course, there are concerns that your predecessor, Anwar Ibrahim, or rather your predecessor, Najib Razak, may be granted a pardon. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think one should speculate in that manner because there is an ongoing case, and the issue of pardon is the sole discretion of the king. Any convicted person has a right to appeal for a pardon. But I don't think we should preempt this. We are a country guided by rule of law, and I have taken a strong position on the issue of governance and the rule of law.